But now, let's talk about users and passwords which are not stored in the right place, but in the place if someone else has them, the credentials. And Frank Breedijk now wants to show us how we can especially work if there are a lot of passwords we have obtained and we have a lot of users we have to notify. So again, give a big applause, and Frank.
Yep, there we are. Thank you. So, okay, he forgot to say stay hydrated, but I guess you notice it's getting hot, especially here on stage. My name's Frank. I'm active in DIVD, the Dutch Institute for Vulnerability Disclosure, ever since it started. My official title is Crisis Manager, which I think is a good description of my management style. I help DIVD disclose vulnerabilities, register CVE IDs for the CNA team, that's the CVE numbering authority, and I process stolen credentials. And the stolen credentials is what this talk is going to be about. DIVD is a group of volunteer hackers that try to make the digital world safer by finding vulnerabilities and reporting them to whoever is in the best position to fix them. That includes scanning the internet, finding and breaking stuff, but it also includes credentials. We're about 189 people strong. We've run in the last 5 years 183 cases. So it's about a case per person, but yeah, not really. And we've disclosed about 1,357,000 vulnerabilities to system owners. And stolen credentials is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. In the past, people used to hack in to get in, but cybercriminals found out that there's no need to hack in if you can log in. Stolen credentials have been a thing we did since the early days of DIVD. So case number 13, which was the 13th case, a lucky case number, was about leaked phishing credentials taken from a phishing site. And it was about 386 credentials. Another phishing credentials was about 100 credentials. And that's relatively low numbers. And you can do the disclosure in Excel or Google Sheets and actually mail people with the mail merge plugin. So it fit really well with the process, and it wasn't really scaling it up. But that changes a little bit when one of our researchers stumbled upon the infrastructure of a botnet, warehouse botnet, and its credentials leaked from their Elasticsearch server that they have as part of their infrastructure. And we were able to get about 250,000 credentials out of that. So all of a sudden, instead of dealing 100, you can't deal with this number with Excel anymore. And you can't individually mail people anymore. You need some kind of mail merge. But we managed. It was okay. It was doable. Yes, there was a bit of extracting stuff from JSON, informing people. And a little bit of the headology when you tell people that their passwords has been stolen. And reactions varied from may my deity be grateful to you and may you have a good life and lots of kids, to fuck off, you scammers, and mailboxes that are compromised, and the minute you send them an email, they send you a zip file with a bit of malware in return. And the malware analyst had a lot of fun with that, but that's a different story. But yeah, these things are compromised. These mailboxes are compromised. And right after that, another researcher found some open directories on Telegram. And there you got it, another 250,000 compromised credentials. Well, same procedure, same number. it works. So what we do is we take this information and mail it to the individual users saying, warning, you have been compromised here. But then came Operation Endgame. Now, Operation Endgame is a cool operation by law enforcement in Europe. The Dutch police is involved, German police was involved, Europol was involved, but also US police. And they wanted to make a statement against cybercrime, against ransomware gangs, saying, hey, we want this to stop. And they also, on one day, invaded the data centers, seized the machines, but on those machines are credentials. And on the 100 servers they had, they found 1.8 million different credentials. And a credential in this case is the combination of a username and a password. Yeah, it's 1.8. Whoa, different ball game. We need to scale our operation. So passwords in this respect were a bit of a hot potato in the Netherlands because usernames and passwords are considered personal data. They can even be considered as a special category of personal data that needs proper protection, because if you lose them, it can have bigger consequences on your personal life. And who is going to warn these victims? Well, the police said it's not our job. We focus on catching and discouraging criminals. We're not there to do the help desk. They were basically also a bit afraid of the fallback. So besides the mails thanking you and cursing you, you also get people who are really in panic. I want to know, okay, what do I do now? So they said, no, we can't do it. And the NCSC, the Dutch National Cybersecurity Center, said, yeah, listen, according to the way our law, the law is by the grace of which we exist, we cannot share special category personal data. So yeah, who you gonna call? Who's crazy enough in the Netherlands to do these projects where people, where other bodies think we don't fit in? Well, that's the IVD. We think we can, and we think it helps. So we had a problem. We wanted to email 1.8 million users. Oh, it's hot. So can you even do that? Well, there's only one way to find out, that's by trying. But just because you can, does it mean you should? Well, luckily we have an ethics committee in DIVD, so we gave them the question like, listen, this is what we're going to do. Obviously we're going to invade people's privacy because we are processing their passwords. We are mailing them out. If they have a shared mailbox, then you may see in that mail what services they are using. If that's Facebook, it's sort of okay. Is that Ashley Madison? Maybe you've got some explaining to do. We did the ethical back and forth, and the conclusion was, yes, we should. And then the question becomes why, or how do you do that? And then I'm blessed with a little bit of Pippi Langstocking syndrome. I've never done this before, so I think I can. So we sat down, we made a plan. And we said, well, if you've got 1.8 million users, you can send out 1 email per second, because, yeah, you have physical transmission times, etc. That means that you need about 500 hours to do this mail run. In those 500 hours, roughly translates to 21 days. Okay, let's go. It turns out if you do that, your friends have an opinion. So we started sending emails to large groups of accounts. Some of these accounts had gone yet, caused a little bit of backscatter, which got into our Google account. So at some point, Google said, no, you're a spammer. And a little bit later, Microsoft says, nope, you're a spammer. And then I got a call from my friends from Bit who run our email infrastructure, expecting them to say no to, what are you doing, you're being crazy. But actually they're being really cool about it. They didn't say no. They said, we've got to talk. We had a good talk, we put some optimizations in, and they still provide us with support for what we do at a very hefty discount. They're one of our great sponsors and we're proud of them. So thanks them. A little applause, please. So in the end, we've mailed most of them. Spam blacklisting wears off over time. So we got to do our normal operation again. And then a researcher said, well, you sound crazy by informing everybody. I've got this list of credentials I scraped from Telegram. There are even more. I do this as part of my, my open source threat intelligence research. So call me. It's an anonymous threat researcher, and he sent us a whopping 1.2 billion credentials. Yeah. We've nearly killed ourselves mailing 1.2 million. What about 1.2 billion? Well, if you take 1.2, you can still do the 1 email per second. It's 500,000 hours. It's about 20,800 days. It's about 57 years. So what did my friend say? No way, we're not going to do this. And we're right, we need a different process. We need to scale this in a different way. By the way, processing a set of 1.8 billion credentials is another story on its own. It's big data, it's notebooks, it's databases that you need to scale really well. SQLite is surprisingly good in this, but slow. DuckDB is better in it, but even slower. But I'm not going to talk about that part. But is this impossible? Well, the other thing we notice is that you've got people who call themselves commercial bulk emailers, aka spam company. Oh, I'm not supposed to call them that. Commercial bulk emailers, and I asked them for a quote. I said, listen, I know you do this. We need to send out large amounts of email. You're specializing in them, and then you get in a whole world of email senders that need to warm up and need a priming time, and they need to cool down, and then you need to warm them up again, and because... And I asked for a quote, and it was 100,000 euros to just do this email run. And yeah, they require recipients to opt in. Which is a bit of a problem because these people never opted into being hacked in the first place, and they didn't opt in to get a notification. So in the end, we decided that, yeah, even if we could scrape the 100,000 euros together, that wouldn't be a good use of resources, and we rather not spend 100,000 euros at a companies whose business it is to send people commercial bulk email or spam. So if you don't do that, what do you do? Well, there's a couple of lessons that we learned. And one of them is that not all credentials are created equal. It's actually if you get the announcement, I have this email address from you and this password, it's, yeah, meh. You need more context. When was this password found? Was it found before or after I changed it? What's this? What do you think this password is for? Where was it taken from? If you have that information, there's a lot more that you need. So a lot of the credentials that are out there are so-called combo lists. Lists where they combine the data from multiple sources, multiple data breaches, and put them together. And that's also how, for instance, breach forms works. If you want to get something off breach forms, it means you need to put something on breach forms. And breach forms doesn't care, so you could just take some old credentials that you have, put them back on breach forms, and hey, you're okay to read another couple of articles. So if we don't have either what this URL, what this password is for, or where it came from, or if we don't have any extra context, we don't process these credentials. It may be that we're saving, that we're leaving some people exposed. Could be, on the other hand, we need to reduce the data, and for most people, this is not actionable. And passwords have impact too. And I'm ashamed to say that this was my LinkedIn password that ended up on the LinkedIn breach. It got stolen from there in a poorly hashed form in 2005. And I consider myself security aware, I consider myself knowledgeable in this stuff, but until that point, the news, your LinkedIn password has been leaked, sort of passed by. It's like, yeah, the weather's nice, wear sunscreen, hydrate, wash your hands, your LinkedIn password changed, it got leaked. Until Scattered Secrets, which my company has a contract with, sent me a message, Frank, this is your LinkedIn password. And even now I did this, I still had to think twice about putting this password on screen. And then I thought, well, I should have done this. So that's what we do for users. I don't think it's nice to plain text email users' passwords, so we do mask them, but even this has impact, because I know what this password is. Well, not anymore, because I now use a password manager. You should all use that. I have random passwords anywhere. I stopped giving, I solved it that way, but if it's a non-random password, I will recognize it. This is how we shorten passwords. Basically, if it's over 10 characters, first 2 characters, last 2 characters, and everything else becomes an asterisk. If it's less than 10 characters, only the first and the last character. Yes, that gives flaw, because if you see the password starts with a W and ends with a 1, and is a certain length, you still know it's welcome01. But you need some sort of information about the password to make it meaningful to users and to make it meaningful to administrators. So how do we process these large bulks? Well, we can still email if these dumps are under 2 million emails. Thanks to our cooperation with BIT, that still can go on. If it's above that, we need to work differently. We need to work with our community, especially with the search, C-search, and security teams of companies. So we do this by extracting what we call the apex domains from the username and from the service that it is. So if I have a stealer log that says, hey, frank@divd.nl is used for www.google.com, then the apex domains are divd.nl, google.com. And that's interesting for the administrators at DIVD, because that's where the account lives. It's interesting for the people at Google.com, because it's a user of theirs. And it might be interested for our national cert because of the .nl extension. And you can get this information. What we do is we make lists of this information. We publish this information online. So we say, I have 70 accounts from divd.nl. I've got 40 accounts that 400,000 accounts that are google.com accounts. We publish those lists. And then if you can demonstrate a legitimate interest to us, you can get the underlying data from us. And in that way, we're saving ourselves. We are creating a little bit of more work for ourselves, but we are saving ourselves the job of having to email so and so many users. The other thing is that our ethics committee came up with a little bit of an objection. And I'll wait for the noise box to pass. And to drink a little bit of water. That is that not all countries are equal in terms of their respect to the human rights. And it just didn't feel right that we would tell a company, an organization in a totalitarian regime, listen, these are the passwords of all your citizens. Because it might not be okay for, say, a certain citizen of a certain country to use a certain service like BitTorrent, ProtonMail, maybe shows that you got a certain sexual preference, that shows you got a certain political conviction. So people also need to be from countries that score above a 0.4 on the Human Rights Index. And the Human Rights Index is a universal study that gives every country a score in how well they respect human rights. Yeah, so I've been talking to you here about credentials and the struggles that we have. Isn't this a solved problem? Because we got services like Have I Been Pwned? In the Netherlands, we've got Check Your Hack. We've got No More Leaks, who tries to make hashes of data and give them to large online platforms so they can see, hey, this is a compromised account. But they each have their problems. The biggest problem with Have I Been Pwned is that it is opt-in. So if you're on Have I Been Pwned, you get notified. But the people whose credentials get compromised are the people who are not very security aware and typically not the people who are on Have I Been Pwned. Also, Have I Been Pwned is too low on context. It's come to the point where I stopped caring that I'm now part of 35 data dumps instead of 34. It's like, wear sunscreen, wash your hands, and stay hydrated. Which is good advice. You should take it, but it's starting to become background noise. Check Your Hack and No More Leaks are police initiatives. The problem they have is that they only can deal with data that's taken from police investigations. And we get a lot of data that's not part of police investigations. Also, Check Your Hack works with a model where you fill in your email address, and if you get an email back, your account has been compromised. If you don't get an email back, your account is not compromised, or it ended up in your spam block, or something else went wrong and you just don't know. No More Leaks has a problem that it has no mechanism to, in a privacy-friendly way, share data with the police. And there's no way that I am going to share plain text usernames and passwords with a government organization that has a license to hack. There's just no way I can justify doing that. So the way forward, we're now at the point where we processed over 1.2, I noticed I messed up a number, but we processed over 1 billion credentials, notified users. We think we know how this works. We found an acceptable way. We also like to reach out to the community that if you're an enthusiast that gathers a lot of this data, please send an email to csert@divd.nl. Let's have a talk. Let's see how your data can help people stay safe. But we would also like to work with law enforcement and the government to actually create tools that work for Europe. Because Have I Been Pwned is an Australian company, and other tools, we just don't have a European equivalent. We need 3 lines of defense. We need to prevent, which means that we need to teach people to fix their shit, apply their patches, and not just talk. We need something like No More Leaks, but then something that works, that we can hook onto. and we need proper notifications that are better than have I been pwned and check your hack. We have some ideas, we have some examples, and we would love to talk any further. Yeah, and law enforcement needs to keep going after cybercriminals, but that's not our job, that's theirs. But this wasn't the end of it, because about a month ago, there was version 2.0 of Operation Endgame. They again raided servers, took servers offline, investigated them, and after some debate, we were able to get another 63,000 credentials, only 63,000. Who would have thought I would say that? But we've got more. So this story isn't finished yet. My talk almost is. So I would like to go on to questions.
Yes, thank you. So we have a microphone here in the front and one in the back. So if you have any questions, please queue up at the microphone. And you can also ask for your password. I think you have all these 1.8 billions on your laptop.
I can't carry them on my laptop, actually. The great people of IT services has had to create a separate infrastructure for me to store this, because this is terabytes.
Yeah. And also special data. So I mean, you don't want to be.
I don't want to carry it around, especially not at hackers camp.
So you don't want to be the one who leaked the data the second time.
Yeah.
So any questions here? No, but I think, so if you found any passwords or other credentials, I think now you have someone, you can hand them over privately in a sealed envelope. And
ccert@divd.nl, or look at ccert.divd.nl/credentials.
So thank you again
Thank you.
For your talk and for your effort.